So this is the third week in December and our third week of going along with the reading plan from the book of the month, which is Your Redefining Moments, written by the Science of Mind minister, Dr. Dennis Merritt Johnson. I'm really enjoying the book. I think it's absolutely wonderful to read. And by the way, if you can get a head start on next year's reading list already. The Stepping Stones bookstore is so amazing. They have all the books for next year. Well, most of them already in stock, and they are some beautiful ones. I'm enjoying Your Redefining Moments very much. And this week's assigned reading is The Practice and Power of Self-Inquiry. And the writer begins the chapter with what is now a very well-known story, a story that probably comes from the Hindu culture and the Upanishads originally. Maybe it existed other places. And it's the story of creation. Right in that moment, just when the Creator is about to throw the switch and turn it all on. But the Creator doesn't yet, because there's a piece that needs to be put in place before everything goes. So the Creator calls an angel and says, look, I've saved the best for last, but I'm going to need to hide it, because it's the knowledge of the true self and the real meaning of existence. And I've created these very crafty beings called humans, and if they get this information, they'll be unstoppable. They'll be so powerful. So the angel says, all right, I'll hide it for you. I'm going to take it to the top of the tallest mountain, because the air is so thin there, they won't be able to breathe, they won't be able to get it. And the Creator says, no, they are crafty. They will figure out a way to get there. No. And the angel says, well, go the other direction. How about to the bottom of the ocean? They can't breathe that. And the Creator says, no, I have created them very intelligent. They, over time, will invent technology and they will get it. I'll tell you what. Why not hide it in the place that they are least likely to ever look? Inside their own selves. And the angel says, all right, that's exactly where I will put the knowledge of their true self. And the author says, I want you to read this with me. You knew exactly where it was when you were born. But if you are like most of us, the more time you have spent on the planet, the more likely it is that you have forgotten where the true self has been hiding. Fortunately, the author says, in the course of being on the planet, we have these moments, these events, that he calls redefining moments. The moments that remind us of the truth of our being. They kind of nudge us and prompt us and hint to us the coincidences, and sometimes they come in the form of a 2x4. Sometimes they come in the form of crises that we just cannot ignore, so that our attention can be brought back to who we are. And the author says, and this is not the only way of remembering your true nature. You don't always have to be hit on the side of the head. There is another way. It is the path of self-inquiry, but it is the road less traveled, because in a way it requires more. He says, and won't you read with me? For thousands of years, masters and students alike have practiced self-inquiry with great dedication, because it leads directly to the mother of all questions, which, if you are to ever find your way back to your true North Star, your point of origin, you must eventually ask, who am I? A split infinitive there. Sorry, that's funny. I'm remembering also that in early 2016, I'm going to be teaching a course, and it's called Self-Mastery. And when I read this, I thought, really, the name of the course should be Self-Inquiry, because the course is all about that discovery of who we really are. And so we take a look at our reactive mind and how that interferes with us knowing what is hidden inside of us, and how to interrupt the reactive mind so that we can live more from our authentic self. I'm going to be teaching it in the mornings, and Diane Tapania is going to be teaching it the evening, and it's a beautiful course. And I'm remembering one of the cautions that the author of the Book of the Month gives us. The caution is this: it's very easy to oversimplify this process and to cut to the chase, because intellectually the answer to the question, who am I, is not that difficult. Yeah, I get it. My authentic self is inside of me. No big deal. What now? Oh, but to really get it, to get what the nature of your authentic self is, it takes a little more than just quickly thinking about it. You've got to get intimate with the question and then with the answer. You've got to have the right open-minded attitude. You've got to be teachable. Otherwise, the sense of separation between who I am and who I have thought I am up until now cannot be dissolved. It is not revealed, and it cannot be dissolved. And you do that dissolving by sincerely, slowly, and regularly asking, who am I? And, when you start asking yourself that question, you might notice how your mind responds. It can react by quickly coming up with an answer so you can get back to whatever you were doing. By losing interest in the question and the answer so you can get back to TV. By avoiding it completely because it stirs up feelings. By becoming annoyed with it because, etc. But for the pilgrim who wants to complete the journey to the final destination of knowing, they have to stay with the question. They've got to give it time so that they can get past the surface answers. They've got to give it time if they want it to reveal any kind of complexity. It's like dating. You know that person that you meet on the first date? You really can't find out everything you need to know about them on the first date. Or even on the second date. Or even on the third date. And sometimes the answers they give you on the first and second and third date, it takes you 10 years to understand what they meant. And they themselves, over time and with experience, are going to evolve their own answers of who they are. And relationship allows for that process of deep, deep discovery. So when you start asking yourself the question, who am I? Think of it as a first date. You're only going to get a surface answer at first. Think of it as beginning a pilgrimage that's going to take a while. Think of it as going on a treasure hunt, and you're going to find something very valuable, but it might not be immediately. Think of it as having many layers of answers, and keep in mind that in the beginning, many of the answers are going to be the obvious ones. And it's a good place to start. He gives an example in the book of how to conduct self-inquiry, and I'm going to do it on myself. You begin by asking yourself, like I will, who am I? The answer, I'm a man. And beyond that label, who am I? I'm a son. And beyond that label, who am I? I'm a friend. And beyond that label, who am I? I'm an author. And beyond that label, who am I? I'm a brother. And beyond that label, who am I? I'm a victim of childhood trauma. And beyond that label, who am I? I'm a musician. And you can see it. I've got to keep on going with the question. To get through all of the labels, if I want to arrive at the identity of the true self, I have to ask the same question over and over countless times to exhaust the labels. It's a long journey. That's what a pilgrimage is, a long journey. A long journey of discovery, and it's so tempting. If you've ever been on a long journey, it's so tempting to stop at the first inn at that motel where there's a pool and there's breakfast and there's room service and settle in there. But the author says it's important not to mistake the stops along the way as the final destination. I'm a parent may be a beautiful label. I'm an artist may be a beautiful label, but they may not be the final stop. Another caution from the author is this: be careful not to jump right past all the labels to the obvious big answer. We can figure it out. I'm whole, perfect, and complete. I'm one with the universe. I'm a center of divine expression in the mind of God. Sure. They may be true, but these answers can also miss some of the power of the journey in which we consciously and slowly peel back the layers of labels. There's power in that process itself. And another way to travel this journey of inquiry is to approach the question from the other side. Instead of who am I and what am I, to approach it from who am I not and what am I not. And for this approach, we have to begin with the assumption that there is no difference between the individual and the universal. Because if we start there, we can approach the inquiry in this way. If I am this, then I am not that. For example, if my true self is universal, then it can't be local. Universal means existing and available for all. So this something, myself, that we are describing is not determined by anything local. And by local, I mean things like my culture, my religion, my location, my age, my gender, my wealth. If I am talking about any of these things, I may not be talking about my essential nature, my true self. I might be talking about my human nature and listing my labels. Another word that can be used in the same way to describe the true self is permanent. If my true self is permanent, then I can't be limited to that which has an ending. So whatever it is, this true self, it's always like that, regardless of what experiences I might have. It cannot be destroyed, although it can be hidden. It cannot be lost, although it can be forgotten. It cannot be altered, although the hurts and trials of life sometimes make it as if it's very far away. Another word to describe this inner self, true self, is eternal. That's a good one. If my true self is eternal, then it didn't start. And it doesn't end. So it has to be present all the time, in all times, and beyond time. So my journey then is to remember what is it that is present and always has been. And this is very helpful to keep in mind when I'm searching for my true self, because it reminds me not to look for it in that which is temporary. Other great words I could use for this line of inquiry are uncaused, unconditional, immortal, omnipresent, and so on. And I can use them, and I think in each case they will lead me to explore the question deeply, who am I? And in time must bring me back to the realization that there is a part of me that is untouched by my journey. And it is that part of me, of you, that does not evolve. It does not get better. It does not improve. think of it as that within you, as being in the same condition it was when in the story it was hidden in you. It's in the same state. Even though the human might evolve, it remains the same. But someone might ask, if everything is already so perfect, why do we pray? Why are we always trying to make things better? What are we asking for? I think we pray that we might wake up to our true nature. I think that we pray to wake up from the dark sleep that keeps us dreaming that who we are is too thin, too fat, too ugly, too old, too untalented, too undeserving, too unattractive, too late, too little, too awkward, too mean, too unlovable, too stupid, too clumsy, too vicious, too vindictive. These are the conditions and experiences of the world. It's the realm of labels and outer forms, and they depress us when we languish in them, identifying ourselves with them. Oh, there is a well-known Christian Christmas song, "O Holy Night." And if you are from the Christian tradition, maybe you remember some of the lyrics. If you do, say this one with me. It starts with, "Long lay the world." It goes like this. "Long lay the world in sin and error pining, until he appeared and the soul felt its worth." Now, to me, I take it as a metaphor describing this journey of discovery we are talking about, the discovery of our true self, because isn't it the case that when we do not know our true self, we lay around pining in sin and error? Metaphors. What error? The error of mistakenly identifying ourselves as this and that, or identifying that and this as being worthy of our worship and time. And things just get worse until he appears, which in this context may also be thought of as a metaphor. He, in this case, is the consciousness of Christ, which is the mindset of the one who knows their unity with the divine. And when that is awakened in you, when she appears, and when you remember your worth, oh, a thrill of hope rushes through your weary world. Don't you know? Because you see a new and glorious horizon appears, and it's so splendid that it causes your knees to be weak, because you are witnessing the re-emergence of your innocent, original self. And that's why the journey of self-inquiry is so powerful. And that's what we're going to be focusing on and celebrating on Christmas Eve, with emphasis on, and what next? And then what? What do you do when the consciousness of unity arises and is born? What do you do next? Now, I can imagine somebody say, yeah, that's all good and well, but it's too much. It's too much for me to believe that I'm perfect. I've done too much. I might have habits that are less than healthy. I might have used language that is less than kind. I might have done things that are less than respectable. I might have used my body and my life in a way that is less than conscious. I might have let people down or myself down. I might have experiences that are so tragic that I've stopped believing it is possible for me to identify the way you're talking. And yet all of those are labels too. Perhaps that person might begin their journey by asking, beyond the label of my history, who am I? Beyond the label of my disappointment, who am I? Beyond the label of my errors, who am I? Beyond the label of my tragedies, who am I? And can I begin by considering that beyond my labels, that there is something in me that is permanent? Something in me that is uncaused joy. Something within me that is connected to all that is. Oh, the discovery of that. Maybe some of you remember the wonderful radio personality, the psychiatrist David Viscott. He said it in his own wonderful way. The purpose of life is to discover your gift. The meaning of life is to give your gift away. Now, our own founder wrote about this self, this gift, in his own words too. He called it the friend within. And I bring it to you, this reading, for our closing prayer and contemplation. It is from the book he wrote, Living the Science of Mind. I invite you to breathe in and exhale, contemplating these words. You have a friend within you who is closer than your shadow. This friend anticipates your every desire, knows your every need, and governs your every act. This friend is the God within your own soul, the animating presence. This friend within you is infinite. And since it is infinite, it is not limited by previous experiences which you may have had, by neither present conditions nor passing situations. It has no inherited tendencies. It has never been caught in the mesh of circumstances. It is at all times radiant, free, and happy. It is your inner, absolute, and perfect self. This friend within you lives in a state of readiness. It is above fear. It is beyond hurt. It is sufficient to itself. This friend within you is a luminous presence, evermore emerging from pure spirit, evermore expanding in your consciousness. It is the high counselor, the eternal guide. It is your intellect, the essence of your understanding. There can be no greater unity than exists between you and this inner friend. It spreads a table before you in the wilderness of human thought. Its cup of joy runs over. It is not altered by disaster, human failure, or the grave. For when this present experience shall be rolled up like a scroll, it shall pass on to new and greater experiences. But today, this friend is here. Trust it then today, and you may trust it for all tomorrows yet to come. Possibly it will be difficult for you to believe that there is such a friend, but it is there at the very center of your being, directing your thought and causing you to triumph over every defeat. For it is an unconquerable hero, the one who keeps silent watch within you, lifting your consciousness to the realization of who you truly are.